This is Micornus Phokane, the leader and the founder of Church Governance Solutions, as we are dealing with ministry of elders. And today I want us to look at what is the proper understanding of the term elder. We are dealing with the ministry of elders, and I want us just to define or look at the proper understanding of the term an elder, because when we understand the term itself, we'll be able maybe also to comprehend the responsibilities following eldership in the church. Now, the term elder is an Old Testament origin, and I'm sure you would know, some of you Bible scholars, that it originates from Old Testament, particularly in the book of Numbers chapter 11 verse 1, and also Deuteronomy chapter 27 verse 1 as well. And now this is used as what they call zagen, which is the primary Hebrew word actually for an elder. So it starts there, emanates there, and it's very important for us to look at to indicate on what the word elder actually means and how does it really relate to the church. Now, it was to indicate in the Old Testament the 70 tribal leaders, I'm sure you would have known that, who assisted Moses. And those people were called elders because they were assistants to Moses in his ministry. Now, it refers to a special category of men whom God, through Moses, set apart for leadership. So you will realize that Moses then became a visionary. And then through Moses, then we see him then appointing people. And this kind of people that he appoints are the very same people that God is going to use to assist and help him in leadership. Much like a senate, for instance, in Israel. And this Deuteronomy, in the book of Deuteronomy chapter 1, verse 9 to 18, it indicates that those men were charged with responsibilities of judging generally. And I'm sure based on that, you would realize that because they were given those responsibilities, they were judging the people. And Moses then communicated through them to the people. Now, most of the time, Moses was not speaking to the people directly. Moses was actually communicating to the people through the elders. And I'm bringing this up because I want you to relate it to your church as a pastor. And I want you to relate to your local church as an elder as well, where you're submitting, to make sure that you understand that Moses was not communicating to the people directly. He was actually communicating through his elders. Now, Moses communicated through them to the people most of the time, and Exodus chapter 19, verse 7 will show you that. And Deuteronomy chapter 31, verse 9, if you look at that, you'll see exactly what I mean. Now, they led the Passover as well, these people. And in Exodus chapter 12, verse 21, that shows you, and perhaps other elements of worship, they were involved with that as well. Now, I want you to see that because that would actually speak to you as an elder. That will speak to you as a pastor as well, how elders should respond and how elders should behave. Now, later, the elders of Israel were actually specifically involved in the leadership of cities. Now that you start finding in the book of 1 Samuel, chapter 11, verse 3, and also chapter 16, verse 4 in the book of 1 Samuel. You look at chapter 30, verse 26 as well, the book of 1 Samuel. Now they start leading cities. Elders start then related to leading cities, not only just small groups of people. Still, their function was decision making. And when you look at it, is they must make decisions. They must lead. They must show their leadership skills as well. They must apply wisdom also to the lives of the people in resolving matters of the people, in resolving conflicts amongst the people as well. They must be able to counsel. They must be able to speak to people and counsel them, speak to people and advise them, to be able to let people know how to then solve their own matters without involving the visionary, without involving Moses in that time. So they must be able to give direction to the people. Now, I hope this is clear because we want to outline this so that we can understand what an elder is. We must understand what the actual meaning of eldership is, because in the church, when we understand that, we should be able to behave appropriately. And generally, they are overseeing the details of an orderly society. They oversee actually the details of the church congregation itself, making sure that there's order there in the church. Now, if there's no order in any church, it should not be the visionary who's blamed. It must be the elders that are being blamed here, because elders should be able to take charge of that. Now, I want to also say in the Old Testament, it refers to them as elders of Israel. You see that in the first book of Samuel, chapter 4, verse 3. Elders of Israel, elders of the land. Sometimes they're mentioned to be that in the book of 1 Kings, chapter 20, verse 7. Elders of Judah, sometimes they were called in the book of 2 Kings, chapter 23, verse 11. Now, elders, therefore, became very popular in leadership of the people of God. Of each and every city around, they must be an elder. And therefore, in a church of God, we must relate to this and say, elders then occupy a very, very great role in the church of the living God. In the book of Ezra, chapter 10, verse 14, and elders of the congregation. In the book of Judges, chapter 21, verse 16, they served in the capacity of a local magistrates and as a governor, as well as governors over the cities, or the tribes of the people, rather, the people that they were allocated to. Now, if you look at that in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 16, verse 18, and of course, chapter 19 as well, verse 12, and chapter 31, verse 28, that's Deuteronomy. And when you look at that, you can see the in-depth meaning of eldership. And it was so serious that it was actually showing along the scriptures, as I'm alluding to you in the Old Testament. Now, another Hebrew word for elder is what we call sab, S-A-B, used only 5 times in the Old Testament. All in the book of Ezra. You'll find it all in the book of Ezra. Now, I want to also emphasize that there it refers to the group of Jewish leaders in charge of rebuilding the temple after exile. That's when they're coming back from Babylon, and they're now rebuilding the temple. Now, these are now the Jewish leaders of the people that were there to rebuild the church. So you will realize that the church of God then lead elders, because any structure that is destroyed in the church need to be rebuilt. Any department that is not functioning properly, elders should take over to rebuild and to make sure that it is functioning. Now, the New Testament uses the Greek word for elder, what we call presbyteros, and I'm sure you'd be familiar with this particular word, which is used about 70 times in the New Testament. Like what we call zagan earlier, which means aged or bearded, because by then they would actually choose bearded people, elderly people, that would be more with wisdom, people that are older, people that have got experience in the things of God, people that would know how to lead the people. By then they would actually choose those people, which means gray-headed, because by that time it would be people of wisdom, because that gray-headed will be covering people of wisdom. And our word elder, which is the Greek word presbyteros that I've mentioned, has reference to mature age. So therefore, by then, the elders would be the elderly people. Now, in this case, in the modern church, it must be people of knowledge then. It must be people that are matured in the things of God. It may not be meaning age in this regard, but it may mean that it must be people that are actually matured in the things of God. For an example, in the book of Acts chapter 2, verse 17, Peter quotes Joel chapter 2, verse 28. Your old man shall dream dreams, it says. The word used for old man in Joel is the same zagen that we spoke about in Greek. And the word used in Acts is presbyteros as well, used in that sense. Elders does not continue or doesn't only constitute an official title. It simply means an elder or an older man or a matured person. It means that. So that's very important that we refer it from that particular point of view. Because when we understand it from that particular point of view, then we'll understand the role when we deal with the role of elders in the church of today. The book of 1 Timothy chapter 5 verse 2 uses the feminine form of presbyteros to refer to older women as well. So in other words, you'll realize that in the book of Timothy, Timothy doesn't take offense of women being leaders. He doesn't take offense of women becoming elders as well, because it is actually not a gender thing. And I want to emphasize, because I've seen in many churches whereby pastors don't believe in having women leaders. They don't believe in having elders who are women. But I want to say in the book of 1 Timothy chapter 5, verse 2, he uses actually feminine gender, which is older women. This verse contrasts older women with the younger ones as well. It means then the older women should actually be able also to tender the younger women into maturity of the kingdom. Very, very important that we emphasize that. Now, this were therefore appealing to the older women as mothers and the younger women as sisters in all purity. In that context, you'll realize that the term also signifies only mature age, nor an office in the church. So therefore, it is actually maturity in spiritual matters, understanding spiritual matters. Very, very important that it becomes a key for any appointment of an elder. And I hope that visionaries understand this lesson very clearly, so that when they appoint leaders in their churches, then they look at people that are matured spiritually. Now, 1 Peter chapter 5, verse 5 contains a similar usage. You younger men, likewise, to subject to your elders. Now, in other words, the younger men were urged to submit under the elderly men. There, as in the book of 1 Timothy chapter 5, verse 2, as we mentioned, the word contrasts age with youth. In such a context, you'll realize that the commentators generally would understand presbyteros to mean only an older person. But I want to emphasize that it doesn't mean an older person in age only. It does mean that it must be an older person in knowledge. So it must be a matured person who knows the in and outs of the word. It must be a matured person who understands how to articulate the word, which is very, very important. Now, in the time of Christ, presbyteros was actually the familiar word that was used when it comes to elders. The New Testament uses it 28 times actually, to refer to a group of ex officio spiritual leaders of Israel. The chief priests and the elders and all those people were actually referred to several times in the Bible. In the book of Matthew, chapter 27, verse 3, it actually outlines exactly what I'm speaking about right now. And I hope this will help you as you look into it. You speak about the scribes and the elders, and I'm sure you would have read about that before. Now, in Matthew chapter 27, verse 41 as well, you'll see that. So it speaks about officers of the temple and also the elders. Luke chapter 22, verse 52, and rulers and elders of the people as well. Acts chapter 4, verse 8. In each of these scriptures, you'll find that it is instances where every single usage refers to recognized spiritual leaders, recognized matured people in the spiritual matters. And therefore, it actually connotes that elders should be matured people in the word of God. Matthew chapter 15, verse 2, and Mark chapter 7, verse 3 and verse 5, it used the phrase tradition of the elders. So in those usages, presbyteros, the word presbyteros refers to an ancestry of spiritual fathers that passed down principles governing religious practices. And I know that there's a big debate in the current church whereby the ministry of spiritual fathers is actually being disputed. But in this case, you'll realize that those that are matured, they pass on information and knowledge towards the younger ones so that they can become good elders as well. And that's very, very important that we consider that. There are 12 occurrences of this word, elder, in the book of Revelation. All of them refers to the 24 elders who appear to be unique representatives of the redeemed people of God at all ages. And I want you to understand that when the book of Revelation shows the word elders, it really shows that the book, that elders becomes then very important and recognizable people that are supposed to be actually in the church of God if we are to have a good leadership in the church. I want to end up here today. I hope that was clear to you, and I hope that you learned quite a bit out of it. And I want to urge you to follow us on our YouTube channel, the Young Men Empowerment Forum, Micornus Phokane. Subscribe there. Make sure that you follow our Facebook pages, Micornus Phokane, and Church Governance Solutions. You will learn quite a bit out of that. But also our TikTok channel as well, which is Micornus Phokane. We posted a lot of materials in those platforms, and that will help you going forward. You and your church shall never be the same again. Allow me to check out right here and say cheers for now.